Hello and welcome. My name is Anna Shelton, and I will be your host today for ICPSR's webinar on promoting data use. For anyone who is watching this recording, you can always contact our team at icpsr-help@umich.edu. And for everyone who's live here in the audience, I am so happy to take questions as we go. Great. So we are ICPSR. Today it's just me, but there are about 100 other people who are here behind me on the team, working every day to make sure that we get you really incredible data and different ways of using that data. So my favorite study is this Kickstarter data, the global study. It is so fascinating to see what Kickstarter is doing with data. As mentioned over here by our fabulous ambassador, Data Jeff, ICPSR also includes 100 staff members, more than 100 now, 800 member institutions, more than 800 now, and about 1,000 representatives. So folks who are on campus or other member institutions who are our direct liaisons between the data and the folks who are at that institution, like students, staff members, etc. I know that we have a lot of our representatives here right now, so I'm so excited to see you. And if you're not a representative and you're interested in that, please do let me know. We'd love to have you join us. I'm just checking on, okay, perfect. I wanted to make sure that everything was working smoothly for our recording. And of course, we have one donut graph. This is Data Jeff, our ambassador. All right, great. So what are we doing here today? Today, we are going to talk about what is ICPSR. We're going to talk about how to find the right data, learning with data, and then also teaching with data. So we're looking at the student side and also the instructor side. Then we're thinking about data training. So how do people increase their own knowledge of working with data? Then, of course, we're going to get to scholarships, everybody's favorite. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about how to spread the word at the institution where you're at. So that might be where you're going to school, where you work, and different ways that you can get that, you can promote data use at the institution where you are. All right, first, so let's start out with what is ICPSR? Great, I'm just seeing that message come in. Oh, thank you so much. We're so glad to have you here. All right, fabulous. So this is ICPSR. I encourage you as we talk today to go to the ICPSR website and follow along there. So you can get to the ICPSR website by opening up a new browser window and go to icpsr.umich.edu. Today I will not be going to the live website because I have so much to cover in a short amount of time. So I'm going to be showing you all of these different things, and you are more than welcome to follow along live. So what is ICPSR? ICPSR is the world's largest social science data archive. We have about 20,000 studies. What that means to us is a data package. So that includes the answers to the survey questions and the information about who was, asked to participate in that survey. All of that would be considered a study, a data package. So we have about 20,000 of those, and that is a really, really large number. Thousands of these studies are available freely to the public. Others are part of what we call the ICPSR membership. So as I mentioned, ICPSR is a membership of institutions, a consortium of institutions. What that means is if you are at one of those member institutions, say my alma mater is California State University, Northridge. At California State University, Northridge, all students, staff, and faculty all have access to being able to use the data and resources that I'm going to talk about. So that's what that means. If you're not at a member institution, we still have thousands of studies that are available to you. But if you are at a member institution, you have unlimited access to all of these 20,000 studies that I'm going to mention here. We also have data linked to over 100,000 publications. This is going to be an important part of what we're talking about today, about how to promote that data use, because really we want to show people how data is being used in the real world, and often that is about showing them where it's being published. All right, so why would you come to ICPSR? There's three main reasons why people come to ICPSR, and we're going to cover these kind of briefly today because I really want to get into how to promote that data use. But typically, people come here for three reasons. One is to access data, so data that already exists and you're coming to find it. So for example, if you're looking for You're looking for the Department of Education data and you're no longer able to find it at the Department of Education website, come to ICPSR. We have that data. So if you're looking for data to access, this is a place to come. And again, we are the world's oldest and largest social science data archive. So we cover about 40 different disciplines of data. Actually more than that, but 40 are our core. And this is a great place to come for that data that already exists. Second, people come here to share and manage data. So over here, you can see our guide to social science data preparation and archiving. This is a book that will show you how to get your data ready to be shared with the world. ICPSR is a really important place to put that social and behavioral science data so that it can be discovered by other people around the world, because ICPSR has this global footprint. This is a really incredible way to be able to share your data and make it discoverable by others who might not otherwise have access to it. And then finally, our data training. So people come to ICPSR from all over. They flock to us in the summer. We have what we call our summer program, and I'm going to share that in a little bit. But we have really incredible quantitative methods training, and we also offer a lot of scholarships for that. So we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But those are the three main pieces why people might come to ICPSR. Access to data, sharing and managing data that you have collected, and then data training. All right, so what does ICPSR have? Like I mentioned, social and behavioral sciences broadly defined. That means that we cover, again, about 40 core disciplines. So if you're looking at the econ, anthropology, sociology, poli-sci, public health, all of those, we have data for you. We have data about people, so like voting, we have loads of voting data, and we have data about organizations. So like I mentioned, my favorite study here is Kickstarter, but we have lots of data from different organizations. You'll hear a little bit like we have social media data from Meta and Instagram and AI data and all kinds of fun stuff. Time periods. So we have data from history, so like the 1100s, all the way to today. I just took a look this morning and we had a new data set that just came in this morning. And I'm on West Coast time, so I'm even a little on the other side of it. So it's very cool to see that we have brand new data that comes in every single day. And then we have all different types of data. So I mentioned surveys. We also have administrative data, qualitative data, quantitative data, of course, images, social media data. We have all kinds of stuff. This is an example of the Ithaca SNR instructor survey from 2024. That's one of the studies that we house. I will mention that this picture came from our social media. If you're not already, follow us on our social media. That's a great way to kind of hear about new studies that are coming out, new webinars, new training, that kind of thing. So here are some of our most popular studies in the last year. So you've got the National Longitudinal Study of Adolescent to Adult Health, we call it AdHealth, Midlife in the United States, we call it MIDAS, the Future of Families and Child Wellbeing Study, Survey of Prison Inmates, Collaborative Multiracial Post-Election Surveys, TransPop, the Population Assessment of Tobacco and Health, it's called the PATH Study, and Gender, Mental Illness, and Crime in the United States. Now, I'm going through these things pretty quickly because I want to make sure we get to that promotions piece. If you have any questions about what kind of data you can find, or maybe having somebody come in and talk to a group about different data that might be of interest to their department or their research projects, just let us know. We'd love to come in and give you more information. These are some quotes from a faculty member who kind of shared with us why he was having people use ICPSR data, and we thought that it was so helpful because I'm biased, but this is from someone else. This is what they said. So ICPSR has real research data, it's curated, it's safe, the data are legitimate, so that makes it really hard for reviewers to dismiss that professionally curated data. Data collection is expensive, and right now budgets being what they are, it's also time consuming, and these data are unlimited and they're ready to go. You also are reducing your time to degree, so discovering data, analyzing, you're publishing, all of those things are happening faster, and you're eliminating time spent on data collection. And then, of course, the researcher or the student has a start to what's already been written with the data, and we're going to talk about that in our bibliography of data-related publications. So if you haven't seen that, I'll show it to you. and then having help finding answers to questions about the data. Our help desk is phenomenal. If you've never worked with them before, they are quick and they are responsive and they have some really good information. All right, so let's start to dig in. So we're going to talk about teaching and learning. So teaching and learning, what are you going to find at ICPSR? So we're going to start here because when we're talking about promoting data use, often the first people who are doing that are going to be our instructors and our students. Maybe our student, maybe you're the what is that word? Not the chair, but the person who leads like your sociology committee at your school or something like that as a student. So often the promoting data use comes from those students and those instructors. Now this also might pertain to you. Maybe you're not at a academic institution. Maybe you're at a nonprofit. I know some of our nonprofit folks are on here. So this is also really helpful. If you have interns who are coming in, you don't know where they lie on kind of learning how to use data, but maybe you don't have time to teach it to them. This is a great place for you to come to, again, promote that data use. You know that we're going to teach them the right ways to do these things. So this is a great resource for you. So all of that to say, this is our teaching and learning section. So if you're on our website, up on the top, you'll see that we have a teaching and learning section. What are you going to find there? We have find and use data. We have teaching with data, so that's typically for our instructors. We have building data skills, so that's often for students, interns, people who are just kind of getting into their data journey. And then we have additional resources. So I'm going to talk through some of these. Something that I will note is that as we go, you may recognize some of the people who appear on our website. We like to use pictures of our own people as often as we can. So for example, if you know Linda Detterman, who is the head of our membership, she's over here on the top right. All right, excellent. Yes, we have a question about working with undergraduate students who have never maybe worked with data before, formal data sets. Is there a way to know what studies are more approachable for students? Yes, let's talk about that. If I don't get a chance to talk about it due to time, please message me through our help desk and we will make sure we get you that information. We'll also see if we can throw it in on the YouTube recording so that we've got it there for everybody else. All right, excellent. So let's talk about finding the right data. So that's where we're going to start, finding the right data. So this is our how to find a data set resource. And again, this is in that teaching and learning section of the website if you're following along live. So how to find a data set. This is a guide that's going to show you, it's going to walk you through, as you can see, step by step. It's going to help you figure out, okay, what's your topic of interest? What data requirements do you have? And it's going to actually talk you through each of those things. So to our question, if you have an undergraduate student who's really not sure what they need, have them go through a resource like this. And I'm going to show you a second one here that'll be helpful. And what they're going to do is they're going to determine, it's going to ask them like, what statistical packages do you want? If you don't even know what your statistical package is, then it's going to guide you and say, oh, have you never heard of R before? Great. This is going to be a direction you want to go. So we have this, so again, we're talking about how to find the right data set, right? If you're an instructor and you're thinking about how do I share data within my classroom, or maybe you're looking to find some data that's based on a discipline. I was just talking to somebody at a grad student like symposium, and they were talking about, okay, we're looking for some data that are for these particular disciplines, and we want to share these data as things that the grad students can then grab and do their project on. So this is a great resource for that. In this data by discipline, it's called Explore ICPSR's Data by Discipline if you're following along on our website, we have suggested studies for behavioral sciences, economics, education, early education, health studies, political science, psychology, sociology, and then global. Often people ask us, oh, is the data at ICPSR only for the United States? No, we have loads of data. I was just talking to somebody about some health-related data that had to do with Botswana and Venezuela and Kenya. So it was really interesting, kind of the breadth of data that they could find. So here's an example. So we're digging a little bit deeper, right? So if you're looking at data by discipline, you might want to dig in a little bit more and see what else is available. So for example, if you're looking at a topic like health, that's really big. There's a lot to it. So this is a page that we have that is about health research data specifically, and it's going to show you some of the resources that we have that are available on health data. So I'm using this as an example. There are other topics that are available as well. So you can see here we have the National Archive of Computerized Data on Aging. ICPSR has been around for 60 years, so some of our titles are not the same as what we would call it now. We wouldn't call something computerized data on aging. But this is our gerontological archive, and we call it NACDA. Then we have Health and Medical Care Archive. We have National Addiction and HIV Data Archive Program, so that the study on tobacco and health that we were talking about, maybe you're looking at vaping data. That's a really great place to go for those resources. Then we have data sharing for demographic research. If you're like in a sociology or we were talking to a history department the other day, that's a really great place to go to just find some really great, just like yummy, well curated, ready to use core data. And then we have, this is a whole mouthful, the Social, Behavioral, and Economic COVID Coordinating Center Patient-Centered Outcomes. Oh, excuse me, these are two separate ones. Then we also have our Patient-Centered Outcomes Data Repository. Then we have our National Neighborhood Data Archive. So if you're looking for geographic related data, maybe by census tract, you can find that data there. And then we have our Qualitative Data Sharing Project Series. So if you're looking for qualitative data, you can find that here too. Again, if you're looking to find data, so you're just exploring, you're trying to figure out what you want to find, another thing we have is these data resource guides. So this is really helpful. I see like we've got some librarians here. If you're looking to share, like you're building out your programming for the the upcoming semester, and you're thinking about, oh, okay, Women's History Month is coming, Juneteenth is coming up. What are we going to do around those, sort of time-bound times when everyone is talking about the same topic? So come to ICPSR, we will help you with promoting that data use around those topics. So some of the ones that we have are presidential elections and other election data. We also have Latinx Heritage Month or Latine Heritage Month. We have resources around 9/11. We have Pride Month, Women's History Month, Juneteenth, 2020. So 2020 was a whole year, and in that year we had all kinds of really interesting stuff happening around COVID, activism, policing, the census, elections, all kind of stuff. So if you are looking at the year 2020, we've had a lot of people who have said, oh, that's something that we talk to our students about, like they remember 2020 being wild. This is a great way for them to go in and think about, oh, okay, this is what I experienced. And then let's promote that data use. Let's show them how to do the data analysis of the elections. Let's show them how to look at the spread of COVID using the data by geography. So all kinds of interesting stuff in there. And then, of course, the Olympics. And the Olympics are just about to come up. So that's a great time-bound resource for you. So we have different resources that you either have things that you can kind of teach to other people, or you have things that you can kind of offer as DIY, something that the students could do themselves, or again, your interns, or even you, if you're starting. I see we have someone here who works in the public health space, and they work in kind of policy. And so it's great to have you here. And if you're looking for data, say you're thinking about, oh, I need to move the needle on this particular public health issue, but I don't know where to start. We have this resource called Choosing Data to Fit Your Needs. And this is going to help you answer that question. Where do I start? And also, how do I know which data I need to use? So when you come to ICPSR, again, this is in that Teaching and Learning tab, you're going to have this template, and you see up there in the image it says Use Template. If you click that, it's going to open up your own version. You can either print it, or you can, if you're doing a research interview with somebody who's come in your office hours, this is a great thing to walk through with them. It's a great conversation starter, and it will also help lead you to figure out what kind of data you need. All right, I'm looking at time check. Okay, so I cannot stress enough how valuable this resource is. It's called our Bibliography of Data Related Literature. And in it, you're going to find research spotlights, current events, and links to the ways that data have been used in publication. So over here on the right, this is current events in the bib. What this is data about what's in the news. So they look at, we have this incredible team of librarians who are here, and they look at what's in the news, what's in the headlines, and then they look at the data behind that. What was the data that they used to get to the headline that you're seeing on your news channel? So I'm going to talk about this here a little bit more, but let me share a little bit about what the bibliography is. So if you haven't been to the bibliography, you can get to it if you're on the website. There's a tab that says find data, and then underneath that you have your data related literature, data related publications. That's our bibliography. So there's a couple, excuse me, there's a couple of powerful things that you're going to get through this bibliography. So obviously, discovering data is one of the most important things that we can do while we're trying to promote that data use, right? So discovering data, finding published and unpublished, so not yet published works on specific topics that are relevant to your research. So what this might pop up like for you is if you go to our website and you type in voting, and then when you search for voting, you're going to see a bunch of different things come up. So you'll see that raw data. You'll see a variable search, so you could look specifically at how people answered specific questions about voting, like in a survey. And then you're going to see this bibliography tab, the literature tab. And what that's going to show you is all of the publications that we know about where someone has used data that you can find at ICPSR to publish. And that can be really interesting. So if you are, for example, working with those undergraduate students, I keep returning to this question that we have in the Q&A. If you have questions, please do type those into the Q&A, and then I'll refer to yours too. So if you're working with those undergraduate students who have possibly never worked with formal data sets before and they don't even know how to begin, if they come to ICPSR, they type in voting or whatever their topic is, and then they navigate over to that tab that's going to give them the data related publications, that's going to show them what has been published, and they can look through there and say, oh yes, I am actually really interested in, how married couples might choose to vote in different ways. There's publications for that. Or maybe they're looking at, how did people in my zip code vote? Or how did people who live in Puerto Rico vote for something, that was a national voting question? Excuse me. So they might be looking for something that's kind of more niche. They can go through that bibliography, find the publications that kind of match the thing that they're looking at, and then go through and find it connects them to the data that are used in those publications. So it's a great way to discover data, especially if you're someone who's never worked with data sets before. It's a great way to discover data that's kind of pre-vetted for the topic that you're looking at. We also have, this is a great way to easily access data. So again, each citation in our bibliography directly links to the corresponding data set that's in our collection. So great way to quickly find the data that's connected to a publication. And then we have these cross-disciplinary insights that are part of this bibliography. So if you're thinking about, how might a researcher in an entirely different discipline be approaching these data in a different way, it can be really interesting to look at kind of the gaps in your own research to see what else might be reviewed or might be analyzed using the data set that you're looking at. And then finally, methodological learning. So learning about different research methods, different analytic techniques that you might use for this particular data, for the data that you've selected. So here's those current events in the bib. Again, these are those data behind the headlines. So I've taken a recent example. This is something that they posted just recently. This content is very frequently updated. Typically during the semester, we're going to be updating it once a week. And the reason for that is that we know a lot of people use this to promote data use, right? So if you are looking, say you're an instructor and you are looking for a discussion topic for students to, when they're walking into the classroom, you want to have a discussion discussion topic that's up on the board behind you already, so that when they come in, they know that their instructions are to talk about this, this thing that has to do with data. But coming up with that thing every week is time consuming. And our instructors, that is a precious commodity, time. So if you come to ICPSR and you come to these current events in the bib, every week you're going to have a refreshed version, right? So large multiracial survey provides insights into US attitudes on birthright citizenship. That is, very much in the news right now. Definitely something that people are talking about. So having your students come in, have them look at this, look at the data behind it. So as you can see, you've got your source citation. So what is the news? And then below that, you have a little blurb that's like, here's what data they used. Now, this can also be really helpful if you are in a communications role and you're looking to share how other people, might use data or remind them that they have access to data. So again, promoting that data use. We have people who use these because they're so constantly updated. You might use them in your newsletters. You might use them for your social media posts. So if you have, once a month you're putting out a social media post that's just like, hey, don't forget, we have access to data. Here's, data in the news. That can be a really great resource. Because we have this quick blurb that's already written here, that's a quick way for you to either condense that, or, if you're an AI person, you can throw that into your GPT and ask it to give you 140 characters. So this is a quick way to get, new data out, new content out, and keep people thinking about data. All right, excellent. I see we have a question about using search to search for an article title and then be connected to the data used in that article. Great question. Yes. So when you go to ICPSR and you use that search bar, so on the homepage, if you use that main search bar, when you type in whatever your topic is, you're going to see it's going to show you all of the studies that relate to that topic. Above the studies, you're going to have a couple of tabs. So you'll see you have like variables, and you can search by variables. And then one of them is the data related publications or the literature. You're going to click on that tab, and that tab will show you, if you expand the search results, you may have to click that button. But that tab is going to show you the data related to the topic that you're searching for, and then beneath it, it's going to have like a little bullet point, and each of those bullet points will show you the data that were used in that publication. So sub-publications use 20, and it's going to list out for you all of those different data sets that were used. It's a great question. Great. So also in the bibliography, we have our research spotlight. So this is just one example. As you can see, we've been doing these for years. These are a little more hefty. They're a little more in depth. And what this is a real look into what's available around a topic that people request. So I'm going to show you, here's some of those research spotlight topics. So women's work in U.S. historical data, U.S. crime statistics, and the transition to more nuanced offense data. We often laugh about the inflection of offense versus offense. So crime statistics. Then you have race, economic opportunity, and the Great Migration. You have maternal depression and child health, criminal justice, and the LGBT population. Then we have women and children in developing countries of South and Southeast Asia, the elderly and social isolation, and then more. And I say LGBT and then I give you some space there because that might be LGBTQIA, it might be LGBTQ, it might be LGBT X. So there's lots of different resources that are available through these different research spotlight topics, and also other places on ICPSR related to that topic. And then we have citation for data discovery. So this is, again, looking at that question that came in through the chat, right? So this, let me show you what this looks like. So I have been talking you through, if you're searching for a subject and then you're showing someone directly the studies, the publications that have come from the studies that are about that topic. You also can look, if you have a particular study, like say you're say you're an instructor, you want your students to use a particular study in your classroom, a particular data package. So I've given you over here, this is an example of our National Neighborhood Data Archive. This is land cover by census tract and zip code. So here you can see we've got our related publications listed right here. So you can click through and you can see the publications that have come from this particular study. Now over here, I've given you an example of what that's going to look like. So this is actually for a different study. This one has to do with mental health. So if you're looking at, mental health as your big topic, or you're thinking about, studies that have to do with mental health, and you're trying to think about what you might be able to publish with a particular study that you really like, this is a great way for you to see what has already been published. Again, then you can do that gap analysis, right? What hasn't been published? Or because ICPSR has been around a long time, we might have, publications from 15 years ago, and then you're looking at that going, oh, this is, ripe for an update. That can be a great way for somebody to look at what they might use that data for. I also want to note here, you can see a lot of these are dissertations. So we hear a lot from our graduate students that they're using ICPSR data for those dissertations. And again, it's reducing that time to degree. So if you're trying to promote data use, particularly among your graduate students, and you're wanting to reduce that time to degree, this is a great place for them to come. And we're going to publish we're going to share their publication and make it more discoverable through our bibliography. So it's a win-win. They can get the data, and then also they can help people find their data. All right, so let's talk about learning about data. Quick time check. Okay. So we have a lot of resources that are built for somebody who is just building up their data knowledge. So this is one. These are videos that are based on questions that we often get. And we say there's no stupid questions. There are no stupid questions at ICPSR. There's no stupid questions in data. Again, to the person who is asking about, they've never worked with a formal data set before, this is a great place for them to come if they have questions like, what even is data? When someone says I need to analyze it, what does that mean? What's the difference between data and statistics? What is missing data? What's a code book? So these basic questions, we go through and we try to answer them simply in a way that, so this picture is of Victoria. She's one of our she works with us now, and she came to us as an intern, as a student. And so it's a way for somebody who is, of that, if you have a student who's teaching another student, it comes across a little bit differently. And we have other staff members too who come in and help answer these questions. All of them are developed with our director of instructional resources. All of them are developed with people who have this, this data expertise. So we're trying to answer these basic questions, things that come into us often through, through our help desk, through just conversations that we're having with people who are on the ground working with students, working with interns. And often this all got started because we had a couple of people who were saying to us, my professor is really grumpy and they think I should know this thing already, and I don't, and I'm too embarrassed to ask it. So that's why we started this No Stupid Questions series. There are currently 6 of them. We keep developing more. Again, if you're looking for practical tips to promoting data use, I would come to the ICPSR page. Again, this is also findable under Teaching and Learning. Look under Additional Resources. It's going to be there. It's in a few other places as well. This is a great resource if you're looking to, maybe you only have 10 minutes a month to think about data and how to get data, concepts out there. This is a great one. You could pre-schedule this on your social media, put up, one a week, done. You've got, the next 6 weeks done, and you don't even have to think about it. All right, so then you have choosing the right statistical test. So again, we're thinking about, if you are just learning how to use data, what are those questions that you might have? So choosing the right statistical test. We have examples for correlation, multiple regression, bivariate regression, paired samples, independent samples, the t-tests, and more. There's lots of stuff here. You can see the examples over here: mode, median, mean, range, and standard deviation, all kinds of stuff. And so we're going to show people how to determine what is the correct statistical test for the type of project that you're doing. Then we also have these topical learning guides. So these are based on a topic or maybe a specific study. So this is an example. This is a learning guide for the National Crime Victimization Survey. And as you can see down here, there's a little bit of information about what that is. So here's an example of a crime-related learning guide. So this is on-demand learning. So this could be homework that you assign and the students can work through it themselves. Again, if you are that nonprofit person and you're trying to make sure, we have a new organization that's recently joined us, and they're working on crime rates in their city. So this might be particularly helpful to them as they're bringing on new staff members, making sure that everyone has the same basic understanding of how to work with the data. And again, you don't have to develop it, right? That's the whole point. ICPSR is here. We've created these things for you so that you can promote that data use without you having to recreate the wheel. We can do that part for you. So here's a couple of examples of that on-demand learning as it relates to the crime learning guides, and there are others in our repertoire. So you have law enforcement agency identifiers crosswalk. In this one, you're going to learn how to combine FBI data. So yes, we have FBI data with other governmental sources to analyze crime. Then we also have the National Crime Victimization Survey. That was the one in the picture that I just showed. And in that one, you're going to learn to calculate crime rates from count and population figures. We do not assume that you have any prior knowledge of statistical concepts. So this is, starting from square one. We want to make sure that the people who are coming to us who want to learn how to use data can start with that fresh slate, and we're going to get you started, from your first steps in data. Then we have this resource called How to Read and Understand a Social Science Journal Article. This is one of our most popular resources. And I laugh about that because you would think that this might be something that people already know. They don't. And that's okay. That's why we have these resources here. So things like how do I read a social science journal article? How do I read a scientific journal article? It's different, right, than reading a novel or whatever it is that you're used to. Also, these students, they've grown up with ChatGPT. So if you've got that undergraduate student, the person you were mentioning, and they're used to just going to ChatGPT and saying, hey, ChatGPT, help me understand whatever this article is, they're going to miss some nuances, particularly in that social science journal article space. So we want to make sure they know how to read and understand that journal article when they're actually the ones doing it. So this is a great resource. Again, you can link to this from your own. If you're a librarian, you can link to this from your LibGuides. If you are, onboarding someone new, you can link this from your onboarding documentation. So these are some great resources for somebody who is just kind of getting up to speed in that, how to use data, how to build your data knowledge. Now I'm going to transition into teaching with data, and I'm going to show you a couple of the exercises that we have. So we have a lot of pre-created exercises that are going to be a quick way for you to bring data into a classroom if you're teaching. So this is exploring data using GIS. So we have a lot of people who come to us and they've heard the buzzword. What is GIS? I want to learn how to do GIS. So this is going to walk them through it. You can either assign this, again, to someone to go through on their own, DIY, homework kind of thing. You can host this if you're a librarian, or you have one of the folks here, we were just talking about your data ambassador, your students. You can have them teach these as a workshop. Then they're learning it and also they're teaching other students, right? So this is going to include, these exercises are going to include a tutorial. So that's going to be how do you use the data and also how do you teach this data resource. Then you have your exercises. So those are pre-created. The data work is already done. You have a slide template, and you also have a pre-recorded instruction. If you wanted to just do a lunch and learn where you have everybody come in and you bring your lunch. So again, if you're that maybe you're an undergraduate geography committee, and you're coming in and you have a lunch and learn, or you have a lunch session and you're not sure what to do with that lunchtime, this can be a great way to just kind of bring something in. You don't have to find someone who can come in at your time period. You can just show this pre-recorded instruction and people can follow along on their own computers. So this is a great resource, and we have others that are similar to this. Then we have this navigating around restricted data resource. Excuse me. Something I should mention, so a lot of these resources are actually created on the ground from our local representatives at these different member institutions. So they're working through with their patrons what it is that works as they're teaching on the ground. And then they might share that with ICPSR so that it can become more available to everyone who's in our network. That's a really important piece of ICPSR. We are a community. So if you have resources that you are like, oh, this is really good, I wish more people could see it, send it to us. Let us know about it. We would love to hear about it and work with you. Also, on the other side, if you have things that you're like, my institution, we just don't have enough money to build out something like how to read a journal article. Maybe you have another idea for something that you'd really love to have, but you just don't have the ability to create it. Let us know about that too. So a lot of these resources came from those ideas from people who are on the ground. So this is navigating around restricted data. This was also, again, developed by a representative. And what she was looking at was a lot of her undergraduate students were they were very advocacy focused. They really wanted to do something about a particular topic, and it was sensitive topics, but they couldn't get access to them because a lot of times those have PII, personally identifiable information. For some reason, they're sensitive. So you might need to have like IRB approval to be able to access these data. You might need some kind of an approval or an application process. And often undergraduates just don't have time to go through that for whatever maybe they're giving a persuasive speech. They don't have time to go through that whole process. So this is quickly accessible data on a variety of sensitive topics. Some of those topics include poverty, victims of crime, mental health, pregnancy. There's lots more. So if you're working with someone who is thinking about a sensitive topic and they're looking for data that they can access quickly, these are data that they can just download right away. They don't have to go through any kind of an application process. We also have our voting behavior in the 2020 election. So we typically do this for every presidential election. We will soon have the data for the 2024 election, so we will have that same resource for 2024. But what we look at is we want to help someone understand how to analyze the voter behavior data for themselves. So there's a bunch of different exercises in here. I've given you a couple of examples. So we have some exercises that are on 2 variable relationships. So for example, marital status in the congressional vote. We also have examples for 3 variable relationships, attitudes on trade and immigration and the presidential vote. So there's lots of different exercises that are in this resource. There's also some ideas for further research. This is really powerful if you have someone who's looking to create a research project and they're just not really sure, again, where to start. We have some ideas for them. All right, then we have data training. We have loads of data training, and it comes in kind of 2 packages. So one is we do webinars constantly. We have so many webinars. We have one coming up in just a few days about COVID related data. We have another one coming up in a week or so about NIH, like sharing data. If you're working with the National Institutes of Health, they have some specific requirements. So we have loads of data training that happens all the time. Those are typically free and open to the public, and you can find those on our YouTube channel once the recording is done. You can also come to ICPSR, as you may have done for this session, and you can sign up for those live. Then we have our summer program. Our summer program is phenomenal. I'm totally biased because I went to it too. These are classes that are online or in person, and typically we have more than 80 classes in statistics, data analysis, quantitative methods, qualitative methods. This is the director of the summer program, Rob. He's fabulous. We have a lot of fun, but we are really serious about data training. So this is a great resource to come to learn about data training. Okay. So these are some of the general sessions. I'm going to show you in a second, but we split this up. We have general sessions, which are more like a typical class course. You can get course credit. And then we have topical workshops, which are maybe like a professional development, more like that. So the 2026 dates for the general sessions, our first session starts June 8th. The second session is going to start in July on July 6th. Typically, sessions include 14 methods courses and 5 to 7 math and computing lectures. So you get all of those if you come to the program. You have introductory to advanced courses that are taught, and you can choose to be online or in person. We host these mostly at the University of Michigan, which is our host campus, but we do have other courses that we teach at other institutions as well. And then you can also choose to take these courses online. Here's some course examples. So for those general sessions, the ones that are a little longer, more like a typical summer class, we have mathematics for social scientists, an introductory review. We have machine learning. We have race, ethnicity, and quantitative methodology. That one's always popular. And then we have our workshops, which are typically more like, maybe they're 20 or 40 class hours long. These can often be kind of more niche, and again, maybe there's professional development tied to it. So some examples: applied methods for studying structural racism, sexism, and other systems of oppression, images as data, interactive visualization dashboards, R and Shiny are always popular. So those are some good resources. We also hire, so we have 30 plus TA positions. And we will post those positions in January. So if you're looking to promote data use, often showing people that they can also get hired is a good way to promote that data use. Then I promised you I'd show you our scholarships. So in our summer program, we have over $150,000 that we give in scholarships every year. This is open to students who are in political science, sociology, education, public policy, related disciplines. The applications are going to open up in January. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you a QR code to sign up for our email list so that you will know when those come up. Our second scholarship is our Data Communication Scholarship. This is going to be due in February 2026. No paper is needed. This is actually videos. And if you go to our website, you can see some example videos. The videos might be highly edited, so maybe you're working with a communications department and you have some people who want to, create these beautiful videos. Those are amazing, but we don't care. It could also be something that you put through. We have a lot of our submissions come through something called Animaker, which is a free tool. You don't even actually have to speak. You can have like a robot voice speak your script for you. So this is open to students who are at our member institutions. If you're not sure, you can see a list at our website. But if you are promoting data use, what you want is if you're showing this to your students, they can win $1,000, which is incredible. And we have undergraduate and graduate categories. So what they'll do is they'll just find a data set that they really like, and then they're sharing that. They're sharing it as if they're talking to their friends about it. So it doesn't require a lot of analysis. It doesn't require a lot of in-depth. It's really about the communication of it. All right, so quickly, let's talk about how to spread the word. So if you are trying to share ICPSR at your institution, we have a lot of resources for you. So if you go to ICPSR, there's a membership tab, and underneath that, there's a section that's called Promoting ICPSR. These things I'm going to talk about are in that section. So we have virtual meeting backgrounds. So you can see here, I have one that says data is my middle name. I just think that's funny, but there's other ones there's loads of them. We have one that has like an otter pun. And then we have some that are very serious where you could put in, these are the upcoming events that I have, and you can have them listed right behind you for any of your Zoom presentations. We also have slide templates. So if you're giving a presentation about data, we have templates for you. And then we have customizable flyers. So this is an example of one. You can see there where it says ask me, and then you can insert your contact information there. We also have lots of pre-written templates. So we have blog posts, we have social media, we have email templates, newsletters, scholarship announcements, all kinds of stuff. That's all pre-written in that promoting tab. And then we have promotional materials. So you can, if you're promoting ICPSR specifically, you can share promotional materials. You can request them from us. They are free. These are pictures of our stickers. This is typically our most popular one. So ICPSR is all about data. People also love this one. I love data at ICPSR. But we have stickers, bookmarks, brochures. We have that data preparation guide, the book that I showed you before. Lots of resources available there. Then we have live opportunities. So we have like our data savvy teaching office hours. These are once a month office hours that are open to librarians, faculty members, students, anybody who's at a member institution. If you are, again, you don't have to be at an academic space. This might be, if you're working at a corporation, or we have a financial institution that is that we were just talking about training up some of their entry level folks who just came in this fall. This is a great resource for them to come in and maybe ask questions that they just aren't able to get answers to, like if you don't have enough staff hours to be answering all of these questions or doing this training. Great resource for that. It's a good place also to share and learn teaching ideas. So if you're trying to figure out how to teach with data, it's a great place to come. We also have live demos. So every month we host a live demo of ICPSR. We look at data and resources. Those are live and they're not recorded. So we take questions from the audience and we actually work through their individual questions. So it's a great way if you're just trying to figure out, how do I get people to use ICPSR more? This is a great way to promote that data use. Just send them to our live demos. You can find those on the events part of our homepage. And then, of course, social media. So we have so much good social media. Here's an example of our beloved Tay. This picture was actually taken by a staff member at ICPSR, so love that. So we're going to share things on our social media that you can also use. Please feel free to share these. So we're trying to think about what's in the news right now. Obviously, Taylor Swift. Everybody's talking about Taylor Swift. So, okay, what data do we have on Taylor Swift? Actually, kind of surprisingly, we have data. We have data on all kinds of things. We were just laughing about some data about fishes. So come to our social media, use that as pre-created content. You can always find stuff on there. And then, kind of to wrap up, please stay in touch. Follow us on those social media channels. Sign up for our email list. I'm going to pause here for a second because I want you to take out your phone and scan that QR code. That's going to take you to our email list page. And that's going to show you lots of different things that you can sign up for ICPSR. This thing on the right, the subscribe to ICPSR announce, that's our big newsletter. So that's the one where you're going to get something once a month that's just, here's the upcoming webinars, here's the upcoming training, scholarships, all that kind of stuff. But if you want to sign up, say you really love social media data and you want to know more about what's coming up, you can sign up specifically for social media data announcements or new data or whatever it is that you're interested in. So that's a great resource. Sign up for those email lists. That way it's coming to you. And then, of course, if you're not a member, please consider becoming a member institution. So again, that would mean that you have access to over 20,000 studies for your faculty, staff, students, whoever it is that's at your institution. You do get discounted tuition for the data training. I can't believe I didn't mention this, but member institutions get about half off of tuition for the summer program courses. So that's an incredible resource. You do get personalized onboarding, and you can start that at icpsr.umich.edu, our website. All right, so we're going to close up shop. I'm so sorry I took you right to 1 minute before we close. Please do put any additional questions into the chat. We will make sure that we cover those directly with you as we close out. But here I've got another QR code for you. This is where you can book a demo. So today we've talked a lot about promoting data use. We've assumed that you already know a lot of the data that is available to you. If you're interested in getting someone to come out and talk about what data is there, how do I access the data, other questions about using ICPSR, please book a demo right there, and we will happily come in and chat with you or chat with your student group, whoever it is. This is our contact information. Again, you can find us at icpsr.umich.edu. We've got our email address, icpsr-help@umich.edu. Thank you so much to everybody who is messaging in the Q&A. I can see somebody just mentioned they just requested stickers for your instruction sessions. I love that. So if there's anything else we can provide to you, please do let us know. Again, reach out to our help desk anytime. It has been such a delight to get to chat with so many of you today, and we will see you online at icpsr.umich.edu. Thank you so much.